Porter's 5 Forces, Strategy of Competitive Environment in Business. Michael Porter provided a framework or strategy that models an industry as being influenced by 5 different forces. The strategic business manager seeking to develop an advantage over rival firms can use this model to better understand the industry context in which the firm operates. The 5 forces are threat of new entrants, threat of substitutes, bargaining power of suppliers, bargaining power of the buyer, and competitive rivalry. It is known that to succeed in business, one must understand the competition. Often, however, managers define competition too narrowly, as if it occurred only among today's direct competitors. Yet competition for profits goes beyond established industry rivals to include 4 other competitive forces as well, which are these shown in the slide. Threat of new entrants. A manager should ask himself or herself how easy or difficult is it for new entrants to start competing, and which barriers exist in the industry. In theory, any firm should be able to enter and exit a market, and if free entry and exit exists, then profits always should be nominal. But in reality, industries possess characteristics that protect the high profit levels of firms in the market and inhibit additional rivals from entering the market. These are barriers to entry. Threat of new entrants is affected by factors such as economies of scale, capital requirements, access to industry distribution channels, brand loyalty, and the likelihood of retaliation from existing industry players. Threat of substitutes. A manager should ask himself how easy can a product or service be substituted? Can the product be produced by a different industry but satisfy the same need? The competition brought on by a threat of substitutes comes from a product outside of the industry. The price of a soft drink, for example, is constrained by the price of plastic and the ingredients used to make the drink. These containers are substitutes, yet they are not rivals in the plastic industry. While the threat of substitutes typically impacts an industry through price competition, there can be other concerns in assessing the threat of substitutes. Consider how different types of TV transmissions, local station transmissions to home TV antennas via the airways versus transmissions via cable, satellite, and telephone lines are used. The new technologies available and the changing structure of the entertainment media are contributing to the competition among these substitute means of connecting home to entertainment. Threat of substitutes are affected by quality, the buyer's willingness to substitute, the relative price and performance of the substitutes, and the cost of switching to substitutes. Is it easy to change to another product?
Bargaining power of suppliers. A manager should ask, how strong is the position of sellers? Do many potential suppliers exist or only few potential suppliers? Is there a monopoly? A producing industry requires raw materials, labor, components, and other supplies. This requirement leads to buyer-seller relationships between the industry and the firms that provided the raw materials used to create products. Suppliers, if powerful, can exert an influence on the producing industry, such as selling raw materials at high prices to capture some of the industry's profits. An example of a supplier with strong bargaining power is Microsoft, concerning the use of office software in corporations today. Here, there is a significant cost for buyers to switch suppliers, thus giving Microsoft more bargaining room. An example of a supplier with weak bargaining power is a supplier of hot dog buns. Here, there are many suppliers and quality is usually very similar. The product is standardized and there are many suppliers. Thus, the supplier will not have much bargaining power. The bargaining power of suppliers is affected by the concentration of suppliers. Are there many buyers and a few dominant suppliers? Branding. Is the branding of the supplier strong? Profitability of the suppliers. Are suppliers forced to raise prices? Is the industry a key customer group to the suppliers? Switching costs. Is it easy for suppliers to find new customers? Bargaining power of buyers. A manager should ask, how strong is the position of buyers? can they work together in ordering large volumes? The power of buyers is the impact that customers have on producing industry. In general, when a buyer power is strong, the relationship to the producing industry is near to what in economist terms a monopsony, a market in which there are many suppliers and one buyer. An example would be Walmart. Under such market conditions, the buyer sets the price. In reality, few pure monopsonies exist, but frequently there is some asymmetry between a producing industry and buyers. An example of a buyer with strong bargaining power is the Department of Defense, when they purchase products from defense contractors. Here, there is one buyer with many suppliers, thus the buyer has a lot of bargaining power. An example of a buyer with weak bargaining power is Intel's relationship with PC manufacturers. Here, producers supply critical portions of buyers' input, thus the buyer has more bargaining power. The bargaining power of buyers is affected by the concentration of buyers. Are there a few dominant buyers and many sellers in the industry? Differentiation. Are products standardized? Profitability of buyers. Are buyers forced to be tough? Role of quality and service. Threat of backward and forward integration into the industry. Switching costs. Is it easy for buyers to switch their supplier? Rivalry among existing competitors. A manager should ask, does a strong competition between the existing players exist? Is one player very dominant or are all equal in strength and size? In the traditional economic model, competition among rival firms drives profits to zero. But competition is not perfect, and firms are not unsophisticated, passive price takers. Rather, firms strive for competitive advantage over their rivals. The intensity of rivalry among firms varies across industries, and strategic analysis are interested in these differences. In pursuing an advantage over its rivals, a firm can choose from several competitive moves. Rivalry among existing competitors. Competitive strategies. Changing prices. Raising or lowering prices to gain a temporary advantage. Improving product differentiation. Improving features. Implementing innovations in the manufacturing process and in the product itself. Creatively using channels of distribution, using vertical integration or using a distribution channel that is novel to the industry. For example, with high-end jewelry stores reluctant to carry its watches, Timex moved into drugstores and other non-traditional outlets and cornered the low to mid-price watch market. Exploiting relationships with suppliers. For example, from the 1950s to the 1970s, Sears, Roebuck & Co. dominated the retail household appliance market. Sears set high quality standards and required suppliers to meet its demands for product specifications and price.
The structure of competition. Rivalry will be more intense if there are lots of small or equally sized competitors. Rivalry will be less if an industry has a clear market leader. Industries with high fixed costs encourage competitors to manufacture at full capacity by cutting prices if needed. Industries where products are commodities like steel or coal typically have greater rivalry. Rivalry is reduced when buyers have high switching costs. If competitors pursue aggressive growth strategies, rivalry will be more intense. If competitors are merely milking profits in a mature industry, the degree of rivalry is typically low. When barriers to leaving an industry are high, competitors tend to exhibit greater rivalry. Sometimes government is added as the sixth competitive force. The government today has a much bigger impact in the business environment. Examples of the government's impact on industry are tougher emission standards for the auto industry and the airline industry and the Wall Street bailouts. There are limitations on Porter's Five Forces model. Care should be taken when using this model for the following. Do not underestimate or underemphasize the importance of the existing strengths of the organization. Inside-out strategy. For more information on this, research core competence. The model was designed for analyzing individual business strategies. It does not cope with synergies and interdependencies within the portfolio of large corporations. For more information on this, please research Parenting Advantage. From a more theoretical perspective, the model does not address the possibility that an industry could be attractive because certain companies are in it. Some people claim that environments, which are characterized by rapid, systemic, and radical change, require more flexible, dynamic, or emergent approaches to strategy formulation. For more information on this, please research disruptive innovation. Sometimes it may be possible to create completely new markets instead of selecting from existing ones. For more information on this, please research Blue Ocean Strategy. In conclusion, understanding the competitive forces and their underlying causes reveals the roots of an industry's current profitability while providing a framework for anticipating and influencing competition and profitability over time. As different from one another as industries might appear on the surface, the underlying drivers of profitability are the same. The cell phone industry, for example, appears to have nothing in common with the market for designer clothes or the car insurance industry. But to understand industry competition and profitability in each of those three cases, one must analyze the industry's underlying structure in terms of the 5 forces. Thank you for watching our presentation on the 5 competitive forces that shape strategy by Michael E. Porter. This presentation was brought to you by Umberto, Clay, and Robin.